Let's bring in our Saturday panel, Senior Advisor to President Trump and Trump 2024 campaign, Lynne Patton, and President and Editor of the Daily Signal, Rob Bluey. Good morning and welcome to Wake Up America Weekend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to see you. So, Lynn, I'll start with you. Michael was just talking about the Iran story. I mean, what do you make of it and how concerning is this?
Well, guys, good morning. Thanks for having me. It's extremely concerning, but, you know, it almost feels like deja vu. Here we go again. I was part of the 2016 campaign, 2020 campaign, now senior advisor on the 2024 campaign. And it seems like, it reminds me of the Russian collusion hoax and all these things. And had the tables been turned, of course, we'd be hearing about it nonstop. There'd be congressional hearings. It would be election interference at the greatest, most highest level. From a personal standpoint, it's interesting because I myself received a death threat from an Iranian-backed group on October 7th of last year against President Donald J. Trump, which I forwarded to the Secret Service. So, this hits home. It's something that our campaign, unfortunately, is extremely accustomed to. It's something that we take very seriously and defer to law enforcement authorities.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this has to be taken seriously. I mean, we've had two assassination attempts, and in my opinion, were much too close. Let's put aside the Secret Service failures for a second, but It's very serious. Rob, we've seen how big the story was with Russia, right? That narrative was everywhere. Why aren't we seeing this story nearly as big? It's not even
being covered, really.
A tiny little drop of water in the ocean compared to that with this Iran hack. Why is it a double standard?
That's a great question, Michael. I think it goes entirely to the fact that it doesn't fit the media's narrative. And of course, Russia was meant to derail the Trump campaign and then the Trump administration. In this particular case, we know that Donald Trump has taken a tough stand against Iran. It's no secret that the Iranians do not like him or the policies that he's going to pursue. But to the heart of your question, I think it goes to exactly what Lynn was talking about. You have a situation where the media and the Harris campaign are in lockstep. They're doing everything in their power to try to take down Donald Trump. And whether that means even giving aid to a foreign actor, I think that that's entirely what you see going on here. And so they will stop at no ends, these elite media interests, to do everything that they can to try to harm the Trump campaign. And it's really sad that we're in a situation now where you have a foreign actor trying to influence this election.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to note, Iran was broke. They didn't have money for terrorism under the Trump administration. And that's why they couldn't, even if they wanted to, have Hamas so well funded to do what they did, the horrific terrorist attack they did on Israel. So they were broke, and they were being, I think even more importantly, arguably, or equally as important, they were isolated from the rest of the Middle East. The Abraham Accords, Trump was figured out, why deal with a terrorist state when we could deal with everyone else? And that's why they don't want him to be president. Right.
It begs the question, which candidate would they prefer?
Right.
Lynn, though, yesterday the House passed bipartisan legislation 405-0 to require the Secret Service to use the same standards for a major presidential candidate as they do for sitting presidents and vice presidents. The Secret Service has said that they have already stepped up security for the former president following the second assassination attempt. Is this enough, though? Is enough being done here to protect President Trump?
Well, guys, I think what we witnessed last week was truly divine intervention a second time. I travel with the president often, and I can tell you that his security has been beefed up. But, the likelihood of an agent witnessing just the tip of a muzzle sticking out of a heavily wooded tree line in the glaring sunlight is a 1 in a million shot akin to what we witnessed in Butler. And I think Don Jr. hit the nail on the head when he said that you shouldn't have to talk to your kids a second time about somebody trying to kill their grandfather.
Yeah.
And I think we witnessed Peter Ducey try to desperately get an answer out of arguably the worst press secretary in the history of the White House when he raised the issue of rhetoric. And instead of actually addressing the issue at hand, She proceeded to call the question dangerous. And then, we witnessed the mainstream media actually trying to blame Trump for his own assassination attempts, both of them. That's not just spin, that's gaslighting with a blowtorch. When you keep calling somebody a threat to democracy who must be stopped, there are enough crazy people out there who are going to try to take it upon themselves to stop my boss with a bullet instead of at the ballot box.
Lynn, I couldn't agree with literally everything you said. I couldn't agree more. You're spot on. To see a muzzle out of a tree line like that as someone that has been out on operations and even the Marine Corps out on patrol, it was amazing. It was divine intervention. But quickly, Rob, we have less than a minute left. What do we know about this assassin? Is it clear what the motives was? I understand he was left-leaning and all of that stuff, but was he just a nut? Because I know he had some strange ties to something, whether it's government or it just doesn't seem to add up. Do we know anything about this guy?
Michael, it's an excellent question, and we need to get to the bottom of it. Frankly, I'm disappointed that we don't know more about the first assassination attempt, so I'm not entirely optimistic that we'll find out a whole lot more. But you're right, the connections and the ties that he has to particular people and government agencies, and the fact that he was well quoted in the news media certainly raises a lot of questions. It's one of the reasons why I think that members of Congress need to take a leading role in this. I'm glad that Governor DeSantis in Florida is putting his attorney general on the investigation. We cannot let this be swept under the rug. I think that so many people on the left and in the establishment media would just pretend that these two things did not happen this summer, when instead we need to get answers.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time, but your insight was invaluable. We appreciate it here on Wake Up America Weekend. Lynne Patton, Rob Bluey, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in the next hour.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.